This will be, Melissa, you'll be first. What are your views with respect to access and affordability of public higher education in Kansas?
Well, our kids are 23 and 26, so we've had 2 college-age students during my tenure of service, so I know firsthand what it's like to pay college tuition in the state of Kansas. Both attended KU, so I know. It has changed a lot, and the regents have evaluated the system, the overall effect of budget cuts from the state. The state share has gone down. Working families have to pay more, and it's almost an X when you, it stands to reason that as the state share fell, the family's share increased by an identical amount. So I know what that has done. The regents have also evaluated what would have happened had those budget cuts not happened, had the state done nothing more than kept up with the cost of inflation. The cost to working families would have actually, tuition rates would have only increased with the rate of inflation. So they would be much lower today than they currently are. And so that situation has to change. So we need to reinvest in higher education as we resolve the crisis in our budget. We need to put funds back in to restore the cuts that have been made. We need to work in partnership with the Community College Network and our K through 12 system, which is actually part of the Kansans Can vision for public education, to give students the ability to decide for themselves. The individual plans of study lead to their next steps after high school graduation. So making sure that they have their options available and they know what those are, that we have concurrent enrollment options and the kinds of high school level choices for students to make that can bring down the cost of their post-secondary journey to the workforce. Some just need a certificate and they're good to go. Some may need a 2-year, some may want a 4-year, but making sure that families have all of the tools in the toolbox to manage costs and that students graduate with a leg up and the ability to get a head start on the credits to shorten their time. The workforce is telling us they need students with particular technical skills, so making sure that we're addressing those needs is crucial.
Okay, thank you. Bree, your views with respect to access and affordability of public higher education in the state?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most overlooked and underrated issues that we have here in Kansas. It was hit very hard by the Brownback tax cuts, and so what that meant was budgets were cut, staff was cut, professor pay went down, and so not only does that make it harder for us to retain talented professors and keep them here in the state, but it also makes it harder for us to attract talented professors to come here as well. We need to invest very much in career readiness programs in our high schools. Not everybody wants to go to a 4-year or 2-year college, and we need to make sure that these people have the training available so their skills are applicable in the workforce and they're able to get great jobs. Tennessee actually has a really great program. The great liberal bastion of Tennessee has this great program where they actually provide free 2 years of post-secondary education for their students. And so essentially how it works is they work with their network of community colleges and technical colleges, and for all mandatory costs and tuition not covered by Pell Grants, the state will cover. And I think that would be a really fantastic idea to try to mitigate the costs. We have to make sure that our students are not only skilled enough coming out that they're attractive in the workforce, but also they're not burdened by debt. I know my generation, we are getting married later, we're buying houses later. There are very, very large economic effects, long-term economic effects due to the college debt that we're facing. And so whatever we can to mitigate that is only gonna make the problems later a little bit smaller, a little bit more manageable.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes the question and answer period. We'll move on to closing statements. Each of you will have 3 minutes to close. And Melissa, you'll be the first.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to stand again because this is how I do best. Thank you all for taking the time to be here to watch us. I think I want to draw some differences between my opponent and myself, because I think on the issues that we've talked about, there's probably not a lot of daylight. But I have learned the difference between idealism and pragmatism in my tenure in the legislature. There is a political reality that will set in very quickly when we convene in January. what we go there wanting and what we are capable of achieving are two very different things. So we need to dream big and we need to want good things to happen for our people, but we also have to go there with the ability to be flexible and to take in the changing environment and react to what is actually happening around us. Working with people with whom I disagree is something that's vitally important to the work that I do, and moving beyond the party labels and being able to work across the aisle. I have worked with Republicans and worked with Democrats. I have told Republicans no, I have told Democrats no. It is a matter of always staying focused on the policy objectives and trying to navigate a system that is unwieldy, because with all the dialogue about who gets elected speaker and who's chairing committees and how the committees are made up, it is actually a flat organization when it comes to decision making. When we convene in the House, we each have one vote, and we've got to find 62 friends to come along with us. And so you have to meet people where they are, and you have to start thinking about challenging the ideas that you come in with. You have to be able to accept that there are people who think very differently, who aren't wrong. They're not wrong, they just have a different idea. So teasing out the common ground that exists, starting there and building out to find consensus is actually the way to go. There's rhetoric out there today that is so incredibly divisive and harmful to this process. So we need to remember that we can't retreat to our tribal corners, that we're gonna be just all in for a partisan cause, because demonizing the other is what got us to where we are, both nationally and locally. And it takes a lot of courage to break out of that mold and to do the work that's necessary to move a bill through that process and get it signed into law. So I stand ready and appreciate your attention tonight, and thank you.
Thank you. Reed, your closing.
Thank you. I would just like to make a distinction too. Representation matters a lot, and then I think it's really important that we try to get new voices into politics as much as possible. Experience is important, and experience is great too, but there's another issue where there's just a big chunk of people out there have never felt like they've had somebody actually represent them. I would be the first Chinese American legislator in the Kansas House, and I think that is so incredibly cool. I never thought those experiences were available to me. I'm really proud that in my district we could very well be responsible for the first Chinese American legislator in the Kansas House and the first female Native American in the US House. And so that it kind of shows you how progressive Kansas can be, and then it's a signal to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. One issue that we haven't talked about today, which I think is vitally important and probably more important than anything that we've talked about, is climate change. The IPCC just came out with a report last week that says the situation is dire. We have 12 years until 2030 until the effects are probably irreversible. So that means in 25, 50, 75, 100 years, a lot of these issues that we're talking about tonight might not matter if we don't address this. So the way to start to address that, I suppose, one way is at every single level, from the city to the county to the state to the federal level, every single policy from here on out has to have an eye towards climate change and reversing climate change. If we do not figure this out, there will be nothing left for us to fight over or argue over. It's the number one issue that we have to address. So again, thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate it. We are so close to election day, so make sure that you guys get out and vote. Again, thank you.
Okay, on behalf of the Northeast Johnson County Chamber and all the people here, we want to thank you both for participating tonight. I want to thank you all for coming and taking advantage of this opportunity to learn about the candidates and the issues. Remember, advanced voting began today by mail, and advanced voting in person begins next Monday, the 22nd. So Make sure you encourage your friends and family and coworkers to participate and get involved and vote. For more information about these candidates and others in important races throughout the county and the state, including election deadlines and other information, please visit the Johnson County Public Policy Council's website, www.votejoco.com. And finally, we invite you to stay with us this evening for the candidate forum for House District 19, which will begin at about 7 o'clock or when Deb tells me. Thank you for being here.